Well, good morning. Another day, another adventure. We're packing up to head up to Hurlock, Maryland. Okay, we made it back with the rear. Who says you need a stinking pickup truck? You don't need no stinking pickup truck when you got an Excursion. So that's our rear, 373 limited slip. It's got approximately 123,000 on it. See, it's got newer calipers on it, but we're going to put ours on anyway. The emergency brake things aren't looking great. I'll have to replace them, but that's typical. So, and I think I got to move our perches for our shocks, because this was, I believe, in an F350. So it seems to be real tight. Very little play. We'll pull the cover off and flush the gear oil out and see what we got. It looks good though, from what I saw. So now comes the fun part. We actually got to get it out of here and get it on the ground and set up. So we'll get that tackled and we'll show you once we get it opened up. So we picked up this rear yesterday up in Maryland. Seems to be pretty decent. It's 373 locker. That's what we needed for the Excursion. Backlash is actually real good on it, which is great. What we did was we took the cover off, we flushed it out with some gasoline, washed it out real good, did that twice, then put just some regular gear oil in it, ran it through it, let that drip out now, and now we're cleaning everything else up. We're cleaning the cover now. Got to clean these bolts up, and then we're scraping the cover off. Going to clean that up, maybe throw a little paint on it, of course, and put the gear oil in it, and then we can put it into the Excursion. I do have to change the shock brackets. They're a little bit different. Also, the parking brakes are in really rough shape, so the cables are messed up. I took them off. What I'm going to do, my plan is I'm going to put it in without the parking brake, which I can't tell you, I don't think I've used that parking brake 2 or 3 times since I've owned it, but it is an automatic. So, but anyway, I'm going to put it in without doing the parking brakes. As long as the rear is okay, you know, put a few 100 miles on it, make sure it has no noises, because what I have to do these parking brakes, you got to pull the axle out, then there's a special tool to take the hub off, then you got to get the kit, and it comes with all new hardware to put and they're basically brake shoes. They go on the inside of the rotor. So it's kind of a stupid design, but it is what it is. So we'll do that once it's in there. Once we make sure, I don't want to put any more time or money into the rear until I know for sure that it is good. Like I said, everything seems tight. There wasn't much metal on the magnet at all. So I think all in all, it should be good. It was painted at one point, but we'll get it in there and put our rotors on and all that, of course, and our calipers. It did come with calipers that were newer. You can tell they were remans, but I think they were sitting outside, so I don't know if they're any good, but I don't know. Something we'll check out and see. So all right, we'll update you, get this cover back on, get some gear oil in there, and we'll show you when we put it in. That should be a pretty good project. Quick update on the rear. We got 3.5 quarts in it, and we siliconed it, and well, not silicone, RTV, and we painted it. So just got to readjust these brackets, pull these brackets off, straighten out the backing plates a little bit, and then we're ready to rock and roll. So not sure when we're going to do it. We'll probably wait a day or so. I just sprayed some degreaser there from where I spilled some oil. So all in all, I think it's pretty much ready to go in. Feels good, feels tight, which is good. So we'll get in and see if it makes any noise. So today we're going to try to get this rear in the Excursion. I got it backed up here. I'm actually going to pull it up and put some plywood down so I have something solid to work on. I'm going to jack it up just barely off the ground, maybe an inch. So basically what I can do is unbolt the rear, put the tires back on it and then roll it out. That's the plan anyway. We'll see how that goes. But we'll get it all jacked up, ready to go, and we'll go from there. But it's not a hard job. I've never done one on this before, but it's not a hard job. It's just kind of tedious, and everything's heavy, you know. It's not... All right, so we got the Excursion finally jacked up on blocks. It took, believe it or not, almost an hour to get everything. So what we did was we jacked it up, we put blocks under both sides, we chocked the front wheels both sides, then we slid the tires underneath, threw a couple 2x before across it. It's not going anywhere. It's barely moves when you push on it, so it's pretty stable. Plus the jack will be under it. So we're gonna get under there, and first thing we gotta do is take drive shaft out. So that requires, and this is Ford, requires a 12-point socket, 12mm, and that's the only thing you can use to get that out. It has to be a 12-point. You can put a wrench on it because a wrench is 12-point, but you won't be able to break. Those are so in there so tight that so what we got to do, take drive shaft out. Gonna have to disconnect the shocks, of course, take the brake lines off, take the brake calipers off, take the airbags off, and then we can drop it down a little bit, and then we can undo these bolts here, and those are the U-bolts that actually hold the rear in. As you can see, I got a 1-inch spacer in there for the factory, or not factory, I put that on top of the factory block, which is very common with these. This has this overload spring, but the piece is missing off of that. I've never seen it down on there. I guess I've never loaded it that hard. I mean, most tongue weight I ever put on is about 1,000 pounds. So, all right, so we will get working here. We'll show you as we go, and try to be as safe as possible. Like I said, we got to take these brakes off too. So we'll get going here, and we'll pick you up as we go. All right, well, we're about 45 minutes in. Got everything disconnected on this side. As you can see, I'm heating this rotor up because I can't get it off. I thought, I was 90% sure I put never sees on it, because I usually do, but I don't know. So we're gonna put a little heat to it and then bang on it. We'll get it off one way or another. But got the U-bolts off, all the brakes are hung. I'm gonna try not to disconnect the brakes so I don't have to bleed them and everything. Shocks off, so everything's off on the driver's side here. Of course, drive shaft's out or disconnected, and just got to get to the other side. These bolts for the U-bolts, I had replaced them when I put the 1-inch lift on. I didn't have any PB blaster, and they were on there pretty good. So old mechanics trip, it's just use a little oiler. I mix acetone and transmission fluid, and you know, that's what the old timers did back in the day. It works, you know. It definitely helped loosen them up. I got them loosened up, and then by halfway I was able to turn them off by hand. So we'll see how the other side goes, but all in all, making progress, and hopefully another 15 minutes, 20 minutes we'll have this thing out. We'll update you then. Okay, we got the rear down, everything disconnected. That went well with the brakes. Don't know if you can tell here, instead of taking the shocks off, I put a ratchet strap, jacked them up so I can get it hopefully low enough to slide the rear out. It's a little challenging here on the dirt, you know, doing with plywood, but sure would be nice to have a lift, but you gotta have a pretty big lift for this truck. But it's going good. Got the both rotors off, and I'll probably do like I did in the last video or a couple videos ago. I'll clean these rotors up. They've been on there 2 years and I don't know, probably 50,000 miles. So we still got to take these brackets off, straighten the backing plates, and other than that, it's going pretty good. Nothing was too rusty or anything. So we're going to slide the rear out now, switch rears around, get that one ready to put in, and go from there. Okay, that rear is out. That rear is going in. We got it all set up. Put our shock brackets on. Like I said, we're not going to do anything with the emergency brakes right now. So we want to make sure this rear is good. If all's good, it's like a couple $100 to get the whole kit for the emergency brake. Plus you got to pull the axles, pull the hub, need a special tool. So we'll get it. As long as the rear is okay, I don't have a problem putting some money into it. I could pull everything off of this one, but this one's old too. This is all original, so there's really no sense in messing with that. And like I said before, I don't think I've used the emergency brake a handful of times since I've owned the truck, but we'll get it, like I said, one way or another. Don't know if you can hear this or not. I'm gonna try to listen. If you can, listen closely. That's the amount of slop in the ring gear, and that's why we're getting noise. If I had to guess, we probably got 35 thousandths play in that, and this one's tight. This one's probably less than 10, which is around where it's supposed to be. I don't know the exact measurement, but it's very tight. So hopefully, like I said, all this work, hopefully it'll work out. Hopefully it won't make any noise, and we'll get it in. We will show you once we get it in and get it bolted up in there. And then, like I said, we're going to clean those rotors. All right. So I just wanted to show you putting actually this rear in. It's a little more sketchy than I like, but the problem is with one person, it really is a 2 or 3 person job, but that's just me. So as you can see, I got the rear jacked up there. It's still tipping forward a little bit. I got a bunch of shims under it, got blocks under it. We're getting close, but I still have to tip the rear back, and it's just a little sketchy. It's hard getting it in there, just balancing it on the jack to actually get it in, but it's in there. And got to get these spacers in here and then get a couple U-bolts in, and then once I get them at least partially, at least the rear's hung, so that's the good part. But as you can see, I got blocks everywhere holding up the rear. Truck is solid as a rock, which is great. That hasn't budged one bit. So all right, we will show you once it's hanging from there. All right, rear is all in. Just got to hang the brake calipers now, cleaning up the rotors. There's the old rear. Show you the rotor here. Just doing like we did on the front ones. Just take a drill, take a little deburr bit, a drill, and then that. Go through the holes, make sure they're cleared out, make sure everything is good. That one, don't know what happened there. And then I put a little never sees in there because last time obviously I forgot. That's why I had to beat the rotors off. So we got the rear all in, got the brakes back hung. We did adjust up the emergency brake cable, even though it has no lining on the thing. It still actually works. It's metal to metal, but it doesn't matter because when it's stopped, it just holds it. So we will get to that another time. But just a note, didn't realize this, and I don't think the guy realized that sold it to me. So this is the original Excursion rear. These threads on the lug nuts are 14 millimeter 2.0 pitch. So the rear that I got is 14 millimeter 1.25 pitch. These are fine thread, those are coarse thread. Excursions came with coarse thread. Evidently in 2003, F250 350s switched over to a fine thread. So needless to say, I got everything in, everything done, all ready to go, and I don't have lug nuts. So what I did was I ordered fine thread lug nuts. They were like $50 for 16 of them. They're the same. They have to have this washer on them. They have to be flat. You know, I could take this hub off, beat these out, change all that. it's not worth it. The whole idea of getting a whole nother rear was to just put it in and go. I mean, if I'm going to do all that, I might as well just rebuild that rear, which I probably will at some point anyway. So other than that, rear's in, everything's back together. All I need is the lug nuts on that. And like I said earlier, I always tell everybody what tools they need when they do a job. So now, of course, yours can vary, because now we know there is some kind of variations in years. But of course, you need a floor jack it up, blocks, jack stands, all that. Impact 13/16 to take the lug nuts off. Just a small impact for taking stuff off. An adapter from that to that, 1/2 inch to 3/8. A hammer, a good size hammer. 1/2 inch drive with a 12 millimeter fine or 12 point socket. That is only for taking the drive shaft out on a Ford. That's the only thing you can use right there. You can put a wrench on it, but you're not going to get it off. So that's just for drive shaft. Of course, we use the socket for, or the wrench for other things. Breaker bar, extension, 18 millimeter to take off the shocks and believe something else. 15 millimeter for like your brake cables and all that, various things. 1/2 inch and 9/16. The bolt that holds the brake line on is actually 1/2 inch, and the hose vent is actually 9/16. Go figure, they mix up metric but screwdriver for various things. Pair of little channel locks. What I did with the brake cable was I pulled all the slack out of it, crimped it on there so I could disconnect it. Pair of needle nose for getting the brake cables off because they're different prongs. 15 millimeter socket, 10 millimeter socket, 1/2 inch socket, 11/16 socket, 18 millimeter, 15/16, a swivel, and another adapter. Like I said, most of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory, but that's generally should get your job done. I use my air blower for cleaning stuff off with the air compressor. Of course, a pair of safety glasses. But other than that, I think this is going to conclude the change of the rear differential in the Excursion. And hopefully everything works out all right. I did start it and run it in gear, don't hear any noises, which is good, and everything seemed to look good, so it should be good. All right then, we will pick you up on the next one.